Hello everyone, Patrick here. I am back. For those of you who know me, I had a break a couple of weeks because we have a new baby here. So we are now a family of 4, and thank you so much to everyone for the kind words in my community tab. There I told you about this little break, and now I definitely need a lot more coffee. But now it's time to continue with new great tutorials for you guys about .NET and Blazor, and boy do we have a couple of topics to cover. Blazor with .NET 8 is great. Awesome new features, and I would say we dive right into .NET 8 with Blazor and all these new modes. Server-side rendering, WebAssembly, streamed rendering. What is that? Let's have a look. So as you can see, I've got Visual Studio version 17.8. It's the preview. This is important. So if you download or want to download and check out .NET 8, then you have to download the SDK, of course. Currently, by the time of recording this, it's preview 7. And here now, you also see that it's Visual Studio Community Edition 2022, version 17.8.0 preview 1. So .NET 8 preview 7 with that version of Visual Studio. And now you go to File, New Project, and you might see something is different here. We've got a Blazor WebAssembly app. We've got also a server app here, but also then a Blazor Web App. So this is now the template to rule them all. We can also have a look here, of course, and then we see there it is, a project template for creating a Blazor Web App that supports both server-side rendering and client interactivity. This template can be used for web apps with rich dynamic user interfaces. All right, now this is important here. Please note that it is really crucial because at first glance you may not really see the difference. Server-side rendering is not the same as Blazor server. Let me just hit next here. I will explain the differences in a minute. So first, a beautiful name, Blazor.net 8, and now dot and now server, because well, you will see throughout this tutorial that we will add another project for Blazor WebAssembly. Again, something different now. So Blazor.net 8 .server it is. This is our server project. And here now you see, all right, we're using a .NET 8 preview. Configure for HTTPS is, well, the usual, right? But here now, use interactive server components. This is something different, and here's no tooltip. What does this mean? So you've got the server-side rendering here, meaning that when you make a request, then you will get a complete, finished, done, you name it, HTML, for instance, HTML file or the HTML contents that the client then downloads, and you can display that. This is great, for instance, for SEO, right? Search engine optimization. This is always a topic till today when you talk about Blazor WebAssembly. And now interactive server components means this is actually then Blazor server stuff, meaning that you have interactivity when you have a button, for instance. Let me just create this now. When you have buttons, forms, and so on, then you want to have this interactivity on your page. And for that, Blazor server in the past, and now also now with .NET 8, well, creates a WebSocket connection, right? So this is what you need to have this interactivity when you're using Blazor only on the server. But if you then use Blazor WebAssembly, you also have the interactivity, but this is then on the client. But let's do this one step after another. You see here Blazor server. Well, this looks still kind of similar to .NET 7. You have no web API here, for instance. If you're used to creating Blazor WebAssembly projects and use the ASP.NET Core hosted, the option there, then this would also surprise you. For instance, if you create a new project and then say Blazor WebAssembly app, call it whatever you want to call it, you don't see the ASP.NET Core hosted model here, right? Again, something very different, but we will talk about that again a bit later here in this tutorial. Now first, Blazor server. I really don't want to explain everything here. You just see you have your app browser, this thing here is important for the interactivity. And now the pages here are the most interesting stuff, because we've got our index. That's great. And then we also got the counter page here, right? You won't get a counter page in the template when you would not activate the interactivity, right? When creating a new Blazor Web App project from the template. So you won't see that. You would only get the index and the weather razor file. And the interesting part, or what Microsoft wants to showcase here, is the stream rendering. All right, so let's have a look at all that. We just run this, and I try my best to explain what is actually happening then there. First thing that you might notice is with .NET 8 now you get this Windows security alert because they're using HTTP 3 now. So you have to allow the access, and then we get here, home, welcome to your new app. This is different. I think there was a hello world or something like that in the other template with .NET 7. And let's just right away open the console here with F12, for instance. And then maybe we can, oh no, we are already on the network tab. We see WS for WebSockets and WASM. All right. WASM will be interesting later when we have a look at all. We get the local host here, for instance. And do we already get the response here? Yes, of course. You see the preview here. This is the response, so we directly get the HTML. Great, nothing that fancy so far, but now let's have a look at the counter page maybe, and voila, there are WebSocket connections. Now the interesting one is really this thing here. This is only visible in development, really, for reloading the browser, for instance, when you change something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the interesting one. And here you also see the messages. When you now click there, you see something is happening here, right? Maybe we see something interesting here that we can read. Well, yeah, we see the position where the user clicked, and then Blazor server is doing its magic. So this is what is actually happening if you now use in the counter razor attribute render mode server. Let's just uncomment that for a sec and restart the application. And again, I really try to explain this so everyone gets it, because I love the presentations of Daniel Roth, community sessions on the .NET channel and so on, Visual Studio Live. Dan really was a great presentation, but it does take some time, at least for me, to really get what was happening there. And what did also help, of course, is checking out the GitHub repository of all that stuff. Anyways, it is restarting now, and I can click here and nothing is happening. And why is that? Well, we have no WebSocket connection. But what we still have, and this is the default, right? When you create a Blazor application, what we still have is simply the counter page here with that preview, right? So you see, you get the complete HTML. We can also right click and say view page source. And here's everything that you would expect, right? Again, this is great for SEO. When you're using Blazor WebAssembly, you do not see that. You see maybe a loading text or something like that, and that's it, right? So the content would then be dynamically added to the DOM. And this is then what now the stream rendering can do, right? So when we go here, for instance, you saw the loading, and then the content is displayed. So this is the stream rendering, and still we see view page source. We see all the results here. Don't take my word for it, but I think this then also works with SEO. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, burn me if necessary. Again, we can have a look at the attribute that is doing this magic, stream rendering true. You can add false, of course, or simply, again, uncomment everything, not only true, but actually the whole line like that. And then we will see the difference. It is now reloading, and maybe it is more clear when we switch to the page. This takes some time, right? And now we see the data. We can go back again, back to weather again, and you only see the result. It is switching to this page now when the data is there. You see the fetch here, and what they are actually doing is it's not really a web service call. They have a delay here to simulate retrieving, as you can see here, the data asynchronously. So if you really make a call to the database, or you want to access another API here, because now, well, you're still on the server, right? So you could create just a service, a repository, access a database, and this takes some time maybe. Still, you can just activate stream rendering, and I will definitely show this on my channel with other examples and not just the template here. At the latest, when .NET 8 is really here in November, I think, and then we will check this out. But now again, I added stream rendering or activated it. We can restart it. Now you see the loading screen. Isn't that nice? And here is how this is actually done. And important, again, if you're wondering what the heck, man, with Blazor Server, this was already possible, looked exactly the same with Blazor Server. Yeah, but now you have no WebSocket connection, right? So this is again the difference. You don't need this WebSocket connection to display the data. Okay, again, counter, let me just add this again. So render mode server, restart the application, and that's for the server part, right? Blazor Server, this is how it now looks. We can again click and you see the WebSocket connection. Again, just to make this clear, Blazor Server is not the same as server-side rendering. Server-side rendering just means that the server is doing all the work, and it will give you then the HTML, and this is then displayed by the browser. And what Blazor Server actually does is opening this the WebSocket connection, and then giving this application, this single page application, some interactivity, so you can click a button, something is happening here, you see the result, right? And forms and so on. Of course, you could also use typical forms and form handling with server-side rendering only. Then you will make a call, something's happening, but maybe you then have to refresh or reload the complete page to see the result. So there are lots of possibilities, as you can see now. And now let's talk about WebAssembly. Real quick, the .NET Web Academy is now open for enrollment, but only for a really short time. Spots are also limited. So if you're interested, then please check out the link in the video description. In the Academy, we cover all things related .NET, Blazor, Tailwind CSS, Git, GitHub Actions, deploying to Azure, many more stuff. So if you're interested, please go down to the video description, check out the link. And if you're thinking maybe my company could cover the cost of the Academy, then great news, I've got an email prepared for you that you can just copy and paste and then send to your boss. Again, link in the video description. And now let's continue with the tutorial. So what do you have to do here? And of course, I did not just know what you had to do or what you have to do to create a web or add WebAssembly here to this project. There is this beautiful, there it is, this GitHub repository here, Blazor WASM client interactivity, as you can see. And this is now the new model. If you want to know more about that or want me to cover this in another video, there's this this great thread from Steve Sanderson, the legend himself, where he describes the thought process behind, let's call it Blazor United still, or simply Blazor in .NET 8, where he is telling us that, well, the Blazor server, great, we can do this in one project, but regarding WebAssembly, they are thinking about several approaches. See it here, single project, exclude by default, single project would be approach B, include by default, exclude by default, include by default, and then two projects. And currently, in .NET 8, and when .NET 8 is released, we will have two projects still when we want to use Blazor WebAssembly. Why do I say still? Well, when you use the hosted model, ASP.NET Core hosted, right, then you know that you would have a web API in essence, then the client project, which is Blazor WebAssembly then, and of course also a shared project. But this, well, you don't need that really when you're now using .NET 8 and Blazor, because, well, you can just reference the other project and then use the models in both projects, I guess. So this is now the idea, and you can read through this. This is really interesting. So that's just a side note. So let's go back to Visual Studio here. And yeah, you have to add another project, right? So let's do this together. Right click the solution, add a new project. And now it's time for the Blazor WebAssembly app. What's actually the description? And nope, here, this one, a project template for creating a Blazor app that runs on WebAssembly. This template can be used for web apps with rich dynamic user interfaces. Of course, right? We can add buttons, forms, whatever you like. And what did I, Blazor.net 8, Blazor.net 8, and now this would be the client. But again, not the same as before. You see it here, nothing web API related. Okay, we can add authentication if you want to, but let's just leave it at configure for HTTPS, create this thing, and now we can actually remove lots of stuff. And this is where this other repo comes in. Again, when you have a look, we actually only have the properties folder, so we can remove the www root. There might also be some conflicts because there is a CSS file. Now I deleted it, I could show you that, but there are cascading style sheets, right? And maybe there will be some conflicts with the server thing. We've got a counter component here, that's interesting. And then also the program CS and the import. So we actually don't need the app. Oh, wait, here, the app eraser. This is not necessary. And oh, Jesus, I removed the wrong www root. Maybe we can just move it here. Okay, no, we lost the icon, but we don't need that stuff. And also we don't need the index HTML, but this should be still the same. So, and it's still here. So it was copying it. All right, let's just try that. We also don't need the, well, the pages, but I still, similar to this example here, I want to use the counter razor file. So let me just move it down here to the shared folder, because then it is a shared component. We can remove the pages, we can remove the nav menu and also the main layout. So now we should only have the properties, counter, imports, program, and here in the program CS we can remove these two lines. So this is now our WebAssembly project, and since this is no page anymore, let me just remove this as well. All right, so that's now the client project. If that was too quick, just rewind, watch it again. And now regarding the server project, we also have to add some stuff. And again, when you have a look, here's the server project. And let's have a look at the program CS. And as you can see here, we've got add WebAssembly components, also add server components. And let's just compare this. Add server components is here already. One difference is also add app map eraser components app, add WebAssembly render mode, and add server render mode. I'm not really sure if this is still necessary because, well, it's not done here, right? We can just try it. And if it's not working, then let's just add it here as well. One more thing that is really important, we have to add a dependency, a project reference to the client project. So the server knows what's going on here in the client project. And we also have to add a NuGet package. So right click the server project, add NuGet packages, include the pre-release since we're using .NET 8 Preview 7 here, and that'll be Microsoft. Yeah, I typed it already. Microsoft ASP, and this is not working. ASP.NET Core Components WebAssembly Server. Awesome name. Install the .NET 8 Preview 7. I accept. All right, so we've got again our Blazor WebAssembly client, and the only thing really that you have here is or are components, right? Really just components that you want to be able to work or to be used on the clients with WebAssembly. All right, and I would say we try that now. So on the pages, on the counter page now, we don't want to use the render mode server. We want to use the render mode WebAssembly. but in preview 7, this is not working. So we remove this attribute. And what we also do is we remove that stuff and now say, give me the counter from Blazor.net client shared counter. Of course, we could add a using maybe to make this look a bit better, but still this is now our counter component. And instead of using the attribute for the complete page, we now say to this, or in this state now of .NET 8 Preview 7, we can say add render mode. IntelliSense has no idea what I'm talking about, but now we can say render mode. Come on, this should actually be here. Wait, maybe, yep, now we're talking, right? And here now we should have, well, we should have web. There it is. All right, so WebAssembly and also auto. This is interesting, and also server. So let's maybe just begin with server. All right, this should change nothing. All right, before we save that, I forgot to add that was add server components, and now also add WebAssembly components. All right, we save that, we restart this thing, and now hopefully when I find it, there it is. Again, let's open the console, and again, WebSockets, we go to counter, and it's not working. So maybe we still have to add in this program CS, add server render mode and add WebAssembly render mode. And let's just try this one more time. And now we've got the, but when I tested this before, and that's really interesting, it really wasn't necessary, but it seems I tested something different. Not sure about that, but anyways, don't forget to add the server render mode and the WebAssembly render mode. All right, so now let's restart this thing. And now we're talking. Still, we see the WebSocket connection, and when we go to messages, we click here, something is happening, right? Okay, and let's also have a look at WASM, nothing there. And when we go to the console, we also just see information WebSocket connected to, and so on. And now, drum roll, please, because here now we are saying WebAssembly. And now restart the application. And what's happening now? We're downloading some stuff, right? It takes some time. Well, not a lot. And we're, well, developing locally here. But when we now go to network, and you already see it, WASM, it is downloading the .NET native WASM now. And regarding the WebSockets, when my machine wants to, we do not see the Blazor ID and so on, right? So we do not see this, but it is still working. What about the page stores? We still see current count and so on. So this will be interesting. Let me just refresh this again. All right, nice. So we still have to, or I at least have to learn how this is working. So WebAssembly now is done. Server also done. And now we've got that thing here, the auto mode. And this is really great. And I'm really excited and wondering what modes will be used, which modes will be used by the community, because this thing now, when we go to application and clear our site data, this thing now will at first use WebSockets. Go to network, WASM. All right, so we reload that. See Blazor, right? And okay, it is really behaving differently. This is really interesting because the idea is that it is using the WebSocket connections for actually Blazor server, right? and after that using WASM, because it is at the same time downloading the WASM stuff in the background. And when we come back and the browser recognizes that, then it shouldn't create this WebSocket connection, or at least not use it, but simply use WASM. And you see it here, it's not downloading it again. We see it in the console that there is something happening or WebAssembly related. Also WebSocket stuff again. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'm reading this simply wrong. And again, you burn me in the comments. If so, please do. Maybe be a bit gentle, please. But anyways, be nice. I really just want to try this one more time. Go to network, and here now the WebSocket connection, empty cache. Yeah, this is the right behavior, or at least the behavior I was expecting. It is also downloading that stuff, right? In the console, we see both WebSocket and the download of the WASM files. And now when we reload that, do not see any WASM stuff. Still need the WebSocket, but now when we click here, we don't see any action. Okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe while well, talking about that and reloading that and so on, I missed something here and did not really clear the cache. I'm not sure about that, but I think now you get the idea. We can reload the page again. WebSocket connection is here, not used, at least it seems so. It is using the WebAssembly stuff, right? And you have no latency issues. Well, here it's of course no problem at all, but this is how this should work. What do you think about that? Server-side rendering, Blazor server, stream rendering, WebAssembly. What are you going to use? What are you excited about? What's wrong about all that? Please tell me that in the comments. And again, if you want me to cover more about that, I'm thinking about creating a blog with .NET 8 already, because, well, please don't tell anyone, but my blog is currently still made with Angular a long time ago, so I really should change that. And I think with .NET 8 I will, and document that with or here on YouTube. So I hope you like this tutorial. If so, please guys, subscribe to my channel. It does make a difference. Maybe at least hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Take care.